So I'm back with another video so soon. I really can't help it. That's because I had a breakthrough last night in regard to the letter R. We call it the letter R. I call it because that's the sound that it represents. There's no secret on my channel. I've talked about how the letter R is actually a vowel because the sound is a vowel. It has all of the attributes of a vowel. Number one, it's made with the vocal cords. Your vocal cords are active. They're producing the sound. It exits your mouth. The sound comes out your mouth. It's not combined with sounds that are produced by other mouth parts like pops, clicks, whistles, and hisses. It sounds the same. Well, no, I should say you can produce the sound with infinite duration or until your breath runs out, right? Until you run out of breath. And lastly, it sounds the same from beginning to end and everywhere in between. So what that means is, just like with aw, you can say aw until you run out of breath, and it's the same sound all the way through. You can do the same thing with You can just produce that sound, until you run out of breath. And if you didn't run out of breath, you could produce it infinitely, infinitely long. That's what makes it a monophthong or a pure vowel. And a lot of phonologists, you'll find articles if you search on the web, is R a vowel? And you'll find a phonologist admitting that, yeah, it really does meet all of the definitions and qualifications to be considered a vowel. But the thing is, we use it like a consonant often, especially when it's at the beginning of words. And it sounds different when we use it like a consonant. And the question that I've been, bouncing around in my head for years now is, what is that? What is going on there when we use R as a consonant? What makes it work like a consonant? Or, we're adding like a consonant coloration to it somehow. We're forcing it to work and function as a consonant, even though fundamentally it's a vowel. How are we doing that? What's going on there? I think people have long known that W has something to do with it. So you'll often see words that begin with WR, like right or wrong or wrought. But that's not the total answer. What really helped me to solve this question is 3 words. You'll see them here on the page, down here, right above my head. Earl, whirl, and rural. Now, in the United States, people, I guess the majority of people will say rural. I myself have always said rural, like rural root. So with Earl, you have an followed by a dark L. It's just 2 speech sounds. That's all there is, and they're both vowels. The dark L is a vowel. How do you know? Because you can say until you run out of breath. So yes, it's a vowel. And we already discussed and showed that that's a vowel. So you've just got 2 vowel sounds in the word Earl. There's no need for 4 letters, really. So with 7M, it just has 2 letters. Now you notice with IPA, they've got this backwards 3, which is a vowel. On the IPA vowel chart, if you look up the IPA vowel chart with sounds, on Wikipedia, you can find that backwards 3, and that is a vowel sound. It's kind of weird. It's not one that I'm familiar with. It's not part of my English speech, so I'm not quite sure what that's all about, or why, for English, I don't think it needs to be there. But anyway, that little squiggle that's coming out from the backwards 3, that indicates rhoticity. So the idea is that you have this sort of sound, and you're adding rhoticity to it, and that turns it into Well, we've proven that is a vowel, and we also know that you can only make one vowel sound at a time. So there's no such thing as making a vowel rhotic, like you can layer this frosting on top of it, or you can mix chocolate chips into it. You can mix rhoticity into, no, is rhoticity. That's what rhoticity is, and is a vowel, and you cannot say two vowels at the same time. This is bullcrap. These vowels with those little squiggles coming out, you'll see some of them up there: bird, word, nerd, hurt. They're all spelled with a backwards 3 and the little rhotic symbol coming out of it. And bother, they have like a backwards E, or backwards and upside down, I guess, with a little rhotic squiggle coming out of it. So in my world of English speech, there's absolutely no difference between the at the end of bother and the in bird, nerd, word, or hurt. No difference whatsoever. So I don't know how they're coming up with these different, symbols between word and, the at the end of together, father, bother, etc. I don't have no idea how they're coming out with that. This other thing, British say father and farther exactly the same because of R dropping. That's just a little trivia thing I added in there. I don't know. When it comes to changes, and this is a change that's been done in Britain, dropping of the sound. So instead of saying ear, they will say ear. And basically they're dropping the R sound in most every word that you can think of. Now the question is, how much damage is being done to the language? In other words, how many words are you losing and destroying because of dropping the Farther is a word that's destroyed because of our dropping. But is that, we shouldn't be that concerned if it's just like a dozen or 24 words that are being destroyed. It's not a big deal, We'll live through it. But if it's hundreds of words that are being destroyed, then, that's time to be concerned. But getting back to the R and what is R, what is again, like I said, these 3 words are what helped me figure it out. And it absolutely does have everything to do with the W. But it's not the W occurring before the it's the occurring with the W. Because if you analyze what happens when you say W at the beginning, when you make the W sound at the beginning of a word like water, okay, you say water. Your vocal cords are activating while your lips are still pursed in the W position. And there's a small opening, between your lips at the center where air can leave. And as long as air can flow, then sound can flow. If air can't flow through your vocal cords, then you cannot make sound. But as long as air is flowing out of your mouth, then it can pass through your vocal cords and you can generate sound. So in other words, you can hum while your lips are in the pursed position of the W. And the W sound is really a sound effect. It's a sudden amplification. The sound goes from muffled to clear. It goes from muffled to loud. And this has to happen fairly quickly. Otherwise, the W effect becomes obscure and you can't really detect that it's there. And so we accept that as a consonant because it cannot be sustained for a long duration. It's a short-lived effect. So you go from muffled to clear, you go from muffled and rather quiet, subdued to loud. And you do that suddenly. And we just, accept that as a consonantal speech sound that we can use in words. And you have to release it into a vowel sound of some sort. But the hum is usually in the oo zone, so it sounds kind of like an oo or sort of oo-ish. It'll vary probably from person to person, but you're humming, basically. You're humming an oo-ish sounding hum while your lips are in the pursed position. And then when you release into some other vowel, whether it's O or oo or a or e. So like wing, 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 wing. Now, when it comes to r, as in rural, so what's the difference between whirl and rural? Whirl, rural. Whirl, W-H-I-R-L, whirl, and rural, R-U-R-A-L. You can hear the difference. You know that there's something there. Your brain picks up on sounds that have as little as like 4 wavelengths. Our brains are very sensitive. Our ears and brains are very sensitive, and they pick up even on really short sounds. So it doesn't take much of that little hum during the W to or something else during the W to detect that there's a difference. So whirl is not the same as rural. So with rural, the second sound is the vowel But if is the only thing that ever happens and there's no consonant form of then rural would sound like Earl. You could have 2 R's, it would be like Earl. Well, that's not rural. If you go ventriloquist, it's hard to say rural, unless you use the Y effect, which is another proximate or approximate. So you're kind of doing the same thing, but you're squeezing your tongue against the roof of your mouth to create that same effect. And you're pushing an through it right at the beginning. So instead of whirl, it's rural. Your lip position is a little bit different, in order to get that sound to pass through your pursed lips. It's a little bit different, but you're pushing an through your pursed lips during the W, the initiation of the W, and then you're releasing into an vowel. So you're going from an consonant to an vowel. But it's only an consonant because you're combining it with the W effect. You're pushing an through pursed lips, or through a near closure between your tongue and the roof of your mouth when you use the Y effect, which is another approximate. year, year, year. So let's see. Rural, 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 rural. It's hard to do. You have to do it with your mouth mostly, almost completely closed. And it doesn't sound quite the same. I mean, the best sounding consonantal form or consonant colored is rural with the W effect. So now I'm pretty happy about finally, figuring this out, because I've been struggling with it for a long time. Basically, my concern was that somebody would say, hey, if R isn't a consonant, then how do you explain the word rural? Because it's not Earl, it's not just two Ers, it's something else followed by an followed by a dark L. And I couldn't explain that. I had no explanation because I didn't know how the consonantal form of is produced. But yeah, it's a you could call it a consonant colored But this whole thing where you think this rhotic vowels or R-colored vowels or R-controlled vowels like they teach I guess in grade school, that's all balderdash. There's no such thing because is a vowel. So anyway, I guess that's all I have to say about this. There is a consonant form of that we use at the beginning of some words. And so now the question is, do I need to have another letter in the 7M alphabet to represent the consonant form of and then a different letter for the vowel form of Because the in the words bird, nerd, word, hurt, dirt, etc., that's just a vowel There's no r to it, It's not bird, it's just bird. And the same thing at the end of together or bother, we always use ER, but ER is actually air. ER is air. Unless you're using a long E, in which case it's ear. Yeah, so I feel like I finally got the whole R question licked. And that's something I haven't found from the professionals, from the experts, the people who, want us to believe that they've got phonetics all figured out and they are the experts on phonology. Well, they write a lot of books, but until it's in a YouTube video, as far as I'm concerned, they haven't solved anything until they put it in a YouTube video, because that's where I get my information. See y'all later.